Welcome back to Ubuntu Podcast, Season 10, Episode 15. It's Tuesday the 13th of June, and we're going to discuss what's been happening in the news and community. I'm Martin, and joining me this week are Alan.
Watcha.
Hello. And Mark.
Hello.
And I'm pleased to say joining us again is Joey.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Joey? You all right? I'll take that as a yes. Alan, what have you been up to since last time we spoke?
I've been flashing
Ooh,
Really?
phones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my son has my old OnePlus One, and I have an OnePlus X, and I wanted to try Lineage OS on them because neither of those phones get updates anymore. So both of those are devices that have Lineage OS images. So I thought I would flash them, and so I did, and it works.
Is that the first time you've flashed Lineage?
There was a first time, yes, for the OnePlus One, and then when I did the OnePlus X, that would be my second time. So,
right.
Yes.
How does it compare with Cyanogen and all the rest of it? I mean, is it as easy as?
It's pretty similar to Cyanogen. Yeah, you know, you've got all the usual faff of, you know, fast boot and ADB and mucking about with recovery things and unlocking this and rebooting and holding down special button combinations and stuff, which is all just horrible, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But now that I've got Lineage OS on both of them, it's okay. There's some problem with the over-the-air updates, in that it doesn't find them for some reason, and there's something I haven't done or something that's...
I didn't know it was supposed to do that.
Not supposed to do what?
Over-the-air updates.
Well, over-the-air as in there's an updater built into Lineage OS. The same as Cyanogen. Yeah. Cyanogen does it as well.
Oh, I didn't realise it did that.
Yeah, there's a thing.
I'll have to investigate this further.
In system settings, there's a button for like Cyanogen updates or now Lineage updates. And I think all it really does is just go and look for the nightly images, because I'm on nightly, and it shows a list of them, and I just press the download button and it puts it in a special place on the file system. You reboot into recovery mode, and you know, it finds it and then flashes it. But for some reason that bit doesn't work, and there's various threads around the place that say it's a known problem with the recovery thing I'm using, and you know, it'll be fixed in the future. But you can boot into recovery and then press buttons in a certain order that make it find it, and then it flashes. So seems all right.
And is this like a stable snapshot, or is this like a nightly that you continually update?
I don't continually update because my OnePlus X is kind of like a backup phone. It's sat on my desk, switched off most of the time, so I don't actually use it that much. I just wanted to try it out to play with. But there's some nice things like, you know, I did the Lineage and the Google apps, and then the Google stuff offered to restore my backup from the cloud, and it restored all my apps. So it's got exactly the same apps that it had before when it was Oxygen OS. So that's quite nice. I don't have to worry about losing all my apps. Yeah. The only thing is I still had to sign into everything for passwords and all that kind of stuff, which is a bit of a faff.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But I'm not so bothered because it's only a backup phone. But yeah, it was pretty smooth, pretty okay. The Lineage itself seems all right. It's got all the same kind of features as Cyanogen. No real surprise there. Just rebranded, really.
Cool.
So, yeah, would recommend. How about you, Martin? What have you been up to?
I've been flashing.
Oh.
But not phones. So a few weeks ago, we spoke about the Intel AMT vulnerability and the management engine stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was rather pleased with myself saying about how computers I'd bought over the years didn't have the vPro stuff. Well, I discovered that I had, in fact, 3 computers that were vulnerable to this thing.
Are these the 3 computers that you've been raving about last week?
Yeah, no, not that one, not the Tuxedo, no, but the my HP Spectre and the 2 Dell XPSs,
right?
And had to apply those fixes via Windows 10. So I've been installing Windows 10, which is the first time I've done that. And the difficulty I had is I used one of the tools on one of those machines when it came pre-installed with Windows 10 to download the recovery ISO image, but I needed to get it onto a USB stick. And I tried following all of these various guides and none of that worked. And then I found a bit of software that was originally called WinUSB Plus, which was a fork of WinUSB. And since I did this a week ago, it's been renamed to WoUSB. And it's a Linux tool for making a Windows 10 ISO into a USB stick. And it worked perfectly. So I actually made my Windows 10 USB stick on Ubuntu. And when I say perfectly, it presented the legacy boot and the UEFI boot options and booted and installed and just worked.
So is this a USB stick that you run from or install from?
No, this is a bit of software that you install on your computer.
No.
Ah.
The USB stick that you made with the software that you just explained, is that USB stick you're going to run Windows from there, or you're going to install Windows from there?
It's just the install media.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But it did mean that I was able to install firmware OS and then flash my firmware and BIOS update and then reinstall Ubuntu.
Well done, you.
Yeah.
What a palaver.
I know, what a mess.
Yes. This is why I loved that thing with the Dell, with GNOME software, where it goes and gets the firmware and does it all in GNOME software, and I don't have to faff around with Windows. Yeah. That was good. Should we get on with it?
Yeah.
Let's. And now it's time for some news. And first up in the news this week, Firefox 54 has arrived with multi-process support for all users.
Haven't people been talking about this for some time?
Yes, this was originally called Electrolysis, which started several years ago and has sort of been gradually rolled out in bits and bobs and behind feature flags, and now it's available to everyone. So this is meant to basically make Firefox more stable and responsive and less memory hungry and stuff by running your tabs in separate processes, or running them in, like, grouping them into processes rather than having all of them run under one big Firefox process which eats everything and interferes with each other and so on.
So is Firefox 54 being announced as a stable, this is the current version, or is this still beta at the moment?
No, it's now available from firefox.com.
Well, that's interesting you should say that, because just before the show started, I went to their website and clicked the download button, and it brought down Firefox 53.
Oh, well, I just clicked the download button and it gave me Firefox 54, so there.
You're further north than me, though, aren't you? So that probably helps.
I'm in a different part of the internet.
You use Firefox, don't you?
I do.
Joey, do you use Firefox?
No, I'm a Chromite, I'm afraid.
Me too.
I use Chrome for work and I use Firefox for my home stuff on my not main computer. I'm likely to actually switch back to Firefox on the back of this, though.
Really? That's enough.
I'm certainly. It's enough for me to evaluate it again a bit more seriously. Yeah.
I have been having some issues the last few days when developing, with developer tools hanging quite a lot, and it sounds like this might be the kind of thing that this will improve. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Yeah, I did play around with it when it was in the beta channels, when you had to fumble around with some sort of flag in the inner workings of Firefox, and it does make it quite an appreciable difference particularly if you're running a lot of tabs at the same time.
Was it faster?
So I think it's going to be one of those,
like CPU not burning all day, or how did you know? What did you know?
Yeah, it was kind of, everything feels more responsive, presumably because there is less going on to tax the CPU with, I guess. Memory-wise. Yeah,
I always felt Firefox felt a bit bulky. I know, saying that, I'm running Chrome, and I'm considering getting more RAM as a result. But I thought that Firefox it feels fat. Yeah, I don't know. It's unquantifiable.
I'd agree with that.
It just feels like it, which is
And that's kind of what this, when I had this switched on, kind of fixes. That kind of feeling comes back where it is actually quite peppy.
Awesome. What's next up in the news then, Martin?
Well, apparently there is a new Minecraft, a new multiplayer cross-platform Minecraft.
How exciting. let's start playing.
Well, apparently, Minecraft, that's like Lego, but on the computer. That's what Minecraft is.
Yes, Grandad, that's right.
Okay, somebody else take over that knows what this is then.
So when Minecraft first came out, it was written in Java, and it was a version for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and you could run a Minecraft server. And Windows, Mac, and Linux users could all connect to the same servers because it's the same code, because it's Java. Write once, crash everywhere. And later they made a mobile version, and the mobile version had a different implementation. It was a complete rewrite, I'm pretty sure, for iOS and Android. And they had a different type of server you could connect to. So you couldn't play against desktop users on a mobile device because it was a completely different code base. And then along came the consoles, and the Xbox 360, for example, had its own server implementation. So your friend who's got a PC, who plays Minecraft on their dad's laptop or something, can't play against their mate who's got an Xbox 360 in the lounge. But it seems like now they're making a unified version, now that they have a ton of developers on it. I imagine at Microsoft, they will be able to play against their friends. So it doesn't matter what platform you're on.
Excellent. So
is this unified version of Minecraft going to support Linux? Because presumably Minecraft supported Linux because it was Java, which can run on Linux.
there is a Linux version. So in the
this is the Linux version and Mac version and old Windows version is now called Minecraft Java Edition, and it can't do cross-platform multiplayer with Minecraft, which is now the name of the version which runs on consoles and Windows 10 and mobile.
However, so I'm aware of that. I'm not referring to the Java edition. There is a beta version of the new Minecraft available for Linux, and I think it's in the Minecraft Reddit or the Minecraft for Linux Reddit, and it was pinned there some months ago. So I'll dig out a link and I'll add that to the show notes.
Right, cool, excellent. We'll see how that goes then. What's next, Alan?
What is next? Well, Legal Beagles have started a case between Artifacts Software and Hancom Inc., those two titans of the software world. But it's an important case, and there's an important development recently. It's all about the GPL. So Artifacts are claiming that Hancom are distributing a piece of software that Artifacts have the copyright on, and they're not redistributing the source. Hancom are alleged to not redistribute the source, and it's GPL, so they should, right? But Artifacts also have another option, which is if you don't want to redistribute the source, you don't want to use our software and redistribute under the GPL, you can buy a different license. And so you can have the same software under a different license, and therefore you're covered. But Hancom allegedly did neither of these things. They didn't redistribute the source as the GPL complies, and they didn't pay for an additional license. So Artifacts took them to court in the Northern District of California, and Hancom wanted to raise a motion to dismiss the case because there was no contract between the two companies, because they just downloaded the software, is the way I understand it.
Were they claiming that they hadn't signed anything on a bit of paper somewhere?
Yeah, basically they were saying that there was no agreement to the GPL in the first place, but I think the counter argument was because they didn't buy the other license, then they were agreeing to the GPL.
Yes,
which was, well, the dismissal of the motion to dismiss means is basically, if that's true, then there's a case to answer. It doesn't actually say that either party is right or wrong. It just basically upholds the fact that the GPL is a valid software license and constitutes a contract.
Right. It basically means
it has been infringed.
The case will continue. It's not, then they can't dismiss it. So the case will continue. They're back in court on the 16th of June. It looks like I looked up the court case, and looks like they're back in on Friday. I don't know how long that will be. Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be that this is an opportunity for the GPL to be tested in a court of law, which doesn't happen particularly often. And who knows which way it's going to go.
Cool. And finally, Joey. Tell us about some malware.
Yes, this is about Microsoft's security team who have come across some malware which uses some obscure Intel CPU feature to allegedly steal data and avoid firewalls.
Ooh, crafty.
Is this the Intel AMT thing we mentioned last time? Or?
It is.
This is the very thing that I've been patching my machines against using Windows 10, ironically.
The thing which we always say it's a really bad idea to have something like this running on your CPU below your operating system because someone will find and exploit it, and they have.
And also the same thing that Purism who were talking about, removing the requirement for this stuff from modern Intel CPUs, and a lot of people said that was a fool's game or fool's errand, including myself. I didn't think that they would be able to do it, which they have now done on a couple of their
have they really
their laptops. Yeah, they have. They've achieved that on two of their. I think the first two, the 13 and the 15. They've now freed of the management engine. They've found a way to neuter it entirely.
Wow.
So yeah.
Is this one of those security things that people really need to be worried about, or is it kind of more hype than impact?
Well, it's not.
Does it have a logo? That's the important thing. Does it have a logo and its own .io domain? If not,
this one has an Intel logo, technically.
The feature that this exploits isn't enabled by default, even if it's available on the device. So it's not a massive panic running the streets screaming kind of deal.
Right. And presumably if you're running Linux, then you're probably not going to be encountering the kind of malware that takes advantage of this, maybe.
I wouldn't like to comment, given my lack of knowledge of such things.
Fair enough.
Well, I guess if it's a publicly accessible machine, or if it's in a data center where there are other machines that might be compromised, then there's the possibility yours could be compromised as well, potentially. I would patch anyway, or turn it off if I don't need it, but yeah.
This is starting to sound like why we don't talk about security stories very often.
Or legal stories, or Minecraft stories.
I understood the Lego story. That was fine.
Okay, good. Is that the end of the news?
Yes.
Save us.
So I believe this is a bit where I tell you that what's coming up next is a roundup of community news and events. Is that correct?
Right. It is.
Yes.
Yeah. And
well done, me.
Yes, well done, you. You've earned your... Ted has blogged about the Inkscape project moving to GitLab. And it's kind of interesting because I always like to highlight these things because it's one of those things that developers... sometimes have to change their infrastructure for whatever reason, whether it's philosophical because it's a non-free platform or technologically or for whatever reason. And it seems like they've decided to move away from Bazaar and Launchpad because arguably Bazaar is dead. Ted says, people learn Git and everyone seems to know Git, and making new contributors learn a different revision control system in order to contribute is an extra hurdle that they don't really need. So moving it, they could have used Git on Launchpad, but they moved to GitLab, which is fine as well, because that's also a free software platform as well, which is good. But he gives it a few tips about what they did in order to do the migration. He wrote a little conversion script and moved everything over. Isn't that brilliant?
So is the main aim of this to kind of encourage more contributors?
I think so. I don't. It alludes to that. Alludes to the fact that Bazaar gets in the way, which
because I've heard from developers before who say that the minute they kind of jump ship to GitHub, that kind of the contribution factor kind of increases considerably.
This is slightly different from that in as much that he's just switching source control tools from Bazaar to Git. He's using a self-hosted GitLab instance. And I think here is that Git has become the lingua franca for developers now in terms of source control.
Right.
But then again, you do get another bump when you move to one of the social coding sites as well.
Right. And we went to a recent GitHub event where they spouted some numbers of, how many developers there are who've signed up to GitHub, and it's a tremendously high number. Chances are, if you're a developer right now, chances are you may have a GitHub account, like whether it's populated with lots of projects or just like a little contribution here and there to somebody else's project. You probably have an account, whereas number of people who have Launchpad accounts, probably mostly within the Ubuntu bubble and applications around that. So it's just an additional hurdle to get over if you want to contribute, is to learn a new revision control system and a new place. Whereas if you're on GitHub, you're probably already logged into it. You open your browser, go to GitHub, you're probably already logged into there. So it's very easy to contribute to a project, especially if you can edit directly in the browser. So it kind of makes sense moving to something else, I guess.
Cool. Next up, Benjamin Mako Hill has published an interesting paper called The Wikipedia Adventure. So this is a blog post outlining the problem of declining online community contributions in general, but this is also something that Wikipedia suffers from in particular.
Yeah, so they devised a game where you get taken through Wikipedia and you get instructed to do certain things, and, well, it's not so much a game as a walkthrough tutorial wizard kind of thing, but when you get to certain points, you stop at the end of like a level, and then you get rewarded with a little badge. But the steps that you do are the steps that you would need to do in order to edit a Wikipedia page. So, for example,
that's cool.
The first step is it gives you a brief introduction of 3 panels of, why Wikipedia is important and who contributes to it, and, that you can contribute to it. And then it takes you to the first step, which is, well, you've got to create a Wikipedia account. So you create the Wikipedia account, and then you create your own page on Wikipedia, and then it talks you through using the editing tools to do things like make the text bold, italic, and link to another page on Wikipedia. So all the real basic stuff. But then it goes through more advanced levels and you get these little badges. So if you go to Wikipedia and find my page, I went through the first level of this before we started recording, and you should find a little badge on the Wikipedia page for Alan Pope, my page. I don't know where that is, but somewhere on Wikipedia there's a recently edited page by me. Someone may have undone it by now because I did it badly. I've had that happen before.
So this isn't the page for Alan William Pope, a former politician in Ontario, Canada, then?
That's not me. No. There are different pages for users than content.
Right, yes.
So yeah, I just went through it, and it was pretty good. I think it's an interesting topic because lots of online communities could potentially gamify, getting started, and maybe make it reward people. I know some people don't.
No, I don't. I'm among those. I kind of feel like the gamification of onboarding just kind of trivializes it a bit. It kind of sucks some of the kind of real incentive for doing it, because people just click their way through just to get a shiny little badge. Yeah.
For the badges. Right. Yeah. Well, I can see that. And when I first started contributing to Ubuntu, I was kind of driven by that. I like magic shiny internet points that have no value, right? For some reason, that pleases me. There's something in my brain that makes me like them. And so when I first started contributing to Ubuntu, Launchpad had this thing called Karma, and I ended up with like 1 million Karma, which was more than anyone who worked for Canonical for some reason. And all I got that for was answering support questions.
In all my time using Launchpad, I never knew that that's what Karma was.
Yeah, it's just, but it was, I think originally the idea was to give people points and reward you and show who are the active contributors. It's a bit like stars on GitHub. It's a way of showing someone is active, not necessarily a reward. I mean, there's no monetary prize for it, and I'm not going to win anything for it, but
well, you got a job.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. I just thought other projects might be able to use this in some way. Benjamin is a clever guy, so he's thought about this.
Cool.
Next up, we have a story about Linux OS engineer Igor Lubunjnik who has been testing out the new Ubuntu Kylin desktop installed on top of Ubuntu Unity. And he's written a lengthy blog post describing his journey and the inconsistencies that he's found along the way. And full disclosure, the Ubuntu Kylin distribution now has its own desktop environment called UKUI. It's chilling, actually. I should be saying chilling. I just can't get that out of my head. And that is a fork, or to some extent it's forked from Mate with some theming tweaks. And he points out a number of inconsistencies with the look and feel of the applications and how it steps all over Unity. And whilst he makes some good points, I think it's fair to say that this is the first outing of UKUI in the 1704 release, and they probably just need a bit of time to polish their product and clean it up.
Is it also a little unfair to judge a desktop by the experience you get when you install it on top of another one?
Very much. I mean, we've spoken about this in the past, that, you know, by and large, unless you pay very careful consideration to the other desktop environments and what your software may or may not do to the configuration of other environments, there's a good chance you're not getting the experience that the distro maintainer intended when you install one desktop on top of another.
So it may well be some of his issues would go away if he did a clean install from a USB stick or something.
Yeah, some of his observations about, you know, how things look and what have you, that's down to the theming implementation, which will doubtless get polished. But then, you know, criticising where settings from Chillin step on top of Unity, well, they're sharing some common components, and that's kind of expected.
Interesting to see it, though. I'd not actually seen this UKUI. I had no idea it was called UKUI. It's a bizarre name. I guess it's a literal translation from Mandarin or something, is it?
I think
it's Ubuntu Chillin user interface.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's even worse. Moving on. Joey has a subject that I think he knows tons about, don't you, Joey?
Well, I know stuff about it. Yes, this week, Canonical, or the Ubuntu Desktop team rather, revealed the results of their recent GNOME desktop survey, which they ran, asking users to rate a range of GNOME extensions based on their...
Where did they run this?
I don't know. In some backwater channel called OMG Ubuntu, I believe. Right. They asked me to run a survey, and I ran the survey for them, and it got a lot of participation, I guess. And the results, non-binding. This was strictly an advisory survey.
Oh, we'll see about that.
Have been revealed.
The internet disagrees.
And unsurprisingly, you're asking people used to Unity what they want the GNOME desktop to look like, and they're kind of saying Unity. So,
right. And so, generally, it was, yes, I like that extension. Yes, I like that one as well. Yes, that one's good as well. All the results seem to be generally...
Some of them were a bit more mixed.
Really?
Mm.
Which ones were mixed?
No left top hot corner, and the
I think you mean no top left hot corner.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That one, I'm really surprised at. That people didn't find that useful or didn't like that.
I think if people had kind of experienced vanilla GNOME shell in sort of that annoying little corner, they'd probably appreciate that extension a bit more.
Right.
I think it's down to people not really
appreciating what it
getting
does.
Triggered by it.
Triggered. Mm. Yeah, that is the right word. And what was the other one? Applications menu.
That's like a replacement. That's just like a standard 2-column app menu. Yeah. A bit like the mate menu.
Yeah. I voted that one when I filled out the survey because I didn't feel that fitted with the design intentions and the design language of the GNOME desktop.
It doesn't, no. Yeah, it's funny. That one seems like it was thrown in, like, you know how when you're trying to sell something, you've got like a range of offers, and you've got the really, really terrible one, the really, really highly priced one, and then the one in the middle. And this is the terrible one at the bottom that nobody would vote for, and maybe that's right. And And also, more contentiously, there was a binary option for what?
For the placement of window controls. Seems the kind of controversial issue ever since Unity changed them back in 2011. I think it was 2011.
And how did that vote go?
46.2% of people would rather they were on the left, as they are now, to 53.8% who want them on the right. So it was a narrow win for
that sounds like a clear will of the people to me. I'd say we change it now. There can be no going back.
So do you...
Right window buttons means right window buttons. You know, you can't...
Window control exit. Yes. Okay. So the website havethebuttonsmovedbackyet.com is going to have to get updated, it seems, because at the moment it still says no. So when 1710 hits, I guess that'll have to change to...
They haven't actually moved yet, though. If you install the daily image, they're still on the left.
Right, so we'll have to hook that website up to...
However, in GNOME Tweak Tool, it is configurable.
Right, good. Okay, that's all of the community news. We've got a couple of events.
Yes.
What's first? OggCamp. 19th to 20th of August at Canterbury Christchurch University, sponsored by Entroware. Awesome.
Entroware.
Oh, go Entroware.
Yes. So they are our first and our platinum sponsor this year. So they're giving us quite a nice prize for the raffle, I believe. Oh. So come along and buy lots of raffle tickets and buy a ticket for OggCamp if you fancy it, or just get one for free. Go to oggcamp.org, and there's also details about accommodation, and we're going to be announcing some details about the speakers and stuff in the next few weeks. So come along. You coming, Joey?
Yes.
Excellent.
Good. Next up is FOSS Talk Live, which is on the 24th of June from 6 p.m. at the Harrison Pub near King's Cross. Are you coming to that, Joey?
Yes.
Good.
Excellent.
I'm going to be everywhere this month.
That's fantastic.
Superb.
Yes. So there aren't any tickets available for FOSS Talk Live, but it's just taking place at a venue that anyone can come to. So worst case scenario, if you turn up without a ticket, you get to spend the evening with a bunch of geeks, and you may get to see some of the shows because not everyone who requested a ticket turns up, and there may well be some slack and you might be able to get in and see some shows.
I've got to leave early, so if you want to see one of the later shows, you can probably get into that.
And sometimes the people who don't go downstairs to go to the show are upstairs drinking beer and eating burgers, because they do especially nice burgers in that pub. So, yeah, I think that's all of the events, isn't it?
It is.
Are you listening to us on our Roku channel? Help other Roku users find the Ubuntu podcast and learn more about open source by giving our channel a star rating.
And that is all for episode 15. We'll be back next week when we'll be interviewing Michael Hall of Endless Computers, and we'll bring you some command line love.
Thank you for joining us, Joey, once again. Lovely to have you.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Will you be joining us next week?
I'm really going to try hard to make it, yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll hold you to that.
All right. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.